Getting old sucks.
Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy
Mega Meeple.
Greetings and welcome to the Mega Meeple. This is episode 90, and I'm back. As you probably noticed, I took the month of July off. Took a bit of a hiatus. Had a bunch of stuff I needed to take care of. That, you know what, after a while, it's like, I just need to focus on doing that stuff. But the month of July wasn't a total waste. I did manage to put out some videos on the YouTube channel. And again, if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, you haven't subscribed yet, just go to the website, www.themegameeple.com. Go to the social media page. The link to the YouTube channel, as well as all my other social media shits, are right there. So you could follow along with me, interact with me. And so anyway, on the YouTube channel, this past month, I went over my top 50 games of all time. And then just prior to Gen Con, I also put out my top 10 most wanted or most anticipated games for Gen Con of this year. And I think that's about it for the YouTube channel. But yeah, I did manage to record some episodes here, just not dedicated any time to really edit them until just recently. But one thing that kind of neat to happen was one of the things that we recorded was a guest spot over on Every Night is Game Night podcast. Recorded a guest spot with Jason for his podcast, so that episode should come. I don't know, who knows when he gets around to doing his show, and then you could expect a guest spot here on the Mega Meeple. We just did like a little tit for tat type of thing, so you could expect him to be appearing on this show here pretty soon. So, but as it is right now, this episode I recorded quite a while ago, long before Gen Con, so we probably say some stuff about Gen Con relating it into the future. That's because when we recorded this, Gen Con hadn't happened yet, so yeah, deal with it. But anyway, I got Tim Virnig with me this episode, so let's get to that right now. Things have been, I think I've gotten back into the groove here. I had to take some little time away from the microphone. Had to take care of some crap at the doctors, and then the other doctors, and the doctors after that, and the follow-up with the doctors, and all that. So you know how that is. So, but to help me out here, cut my workload in half, I brought on a special guest co-host. And so he's gonna make my job a little bit easier this time around, so I don't have to do all the heavy lifting. So sort of like a tag team, He's like, okay, you're gonna tag him in, and he's gonna do all the work, and then I'm gonna do a blind tag and come in and for the cover, and I'll win. So that's. So for all you wrestling fans out there, you know how that works. But we have with us this time Tim Virnig. Tim, how the hell are you, dude?
I'm doing really good. And Thomas, I want to say I'm glad that you're back on the air and everything's well with you again. It's good to hear that things are going much better. And I appreciate the opportunity to come back on your, I don't know, what is this, the return episode 91. So it's an honor to be here with you and talk to your listeners and chat about games.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Any day that we're above ground is a good day, as far as I'm concerned.
Very, very much.
Well, I have my luchador mask on, so I'm ready for this wrestling tag team that we've got going. So hopefully, between the two of us, we'll be able to soldier on through the episode.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I remember years ago there used to. This was before they came out with the WWE network, but there was a lot of these sports bars in the area would have they would play like pay-per-views, and one of them would be like the WWE pay-per-view stuff, and it was just really neat to go to these sports bars and restaurants, have some barbecued ribs and stuff like that and some beer, and I mean the whole restaurant would get into this stuff. And I remember there was always one table, these people that would reserve this one table, and they would come in and they would almost like construct like a little altar or something. They come in with their own tablecloth, put the tablecloth down. They had this replica belt or something like that, and they would just put the belt on, and it was like they just did it up. It was like an event to them. So, but it was just really neat to be able to watch that stuff, and half the bar would be cheering for one person, the other bar would be cheering for the other one, and just smash talk each other, and it was so.
It's almost as if there are people out there who are as crazy about wrestling as we are about the board game hobby.
Oh yeah, because there's fans and of any genre or any community. So we did you get to go to Origins?
I did. We had a really good Origin. So in case those listening don't know, I'm brand ambassador for Thunderworks Games. Thunderworks Games is here in Madison, Wisconsin. The founder and designer, publisher of the Role Player is the game that's sort of the foundational game. Keith Matejka. I've known him for about a year or so, and he knew that I was really passionate about demoing and teaching games. So I'd been demoing games for different companies through the years, and he just came up to me one day and said, "You know what? You love doing this. You have a lot of passion teaching games, promoting the brands. Why don't you just come and do that for me?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" I mean, and it's been wonderful. So we were out at Origins this year. And Origins, for those who have gone, know, is really a gamers convention. I mean, Gen Con is, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, drinking from a fire hose. It's just like overwhelming. I mean, if you can imagine Lucas Oil Field, the football stadium, just filled with people playing games, and that's just one of the sites where they have gaming. It's incredible. Origins is, first of all, Columbus, Ohio is a great city. The convention center is in an area that is filled with great restaurants and bars that are not chain restaurants. So you can walk directly across the street from the convention center, from almost any of the entrances, and run smack dab into a great place to eat. Tacos, pizza, Brazilian steakhouse, just about everything you can think of. So for me, Origins is a chance to see a lot of friends, make new friends, and eat and drink and just hang out. So, I mean, obviously we're doing a lot of work in the booth, but when the hall shuts down, it's time to go have some fun and play some games with friends. So it was a great time. Origins isn't heavy with new releases, so it's not the kind of craziness that Gen Con is. So, we had Role Player and the Monsters and Minions expansion for Role Player for sale, and Dual Powers. And we were giving sneak peeks of Cartographers, which is our new draw and write game, and Lockup. Those two will be at Gen Con, but we just had sneak peeks of it. So it was a little bit more laid back, but it's always great. We're meeting with people who really love our games, and people who love Role Player are real loyal fans. So it's great to meet them and get a chance to talk with them and hear why they like playing. And I don't know about you, but really what makes a game great is when you have a story to tell when you're done playing.
Yeah.
And it seems like Role Player is the kind of game that people like to tell the story. For those who don't know Role Player is a dice drafting game where you are creating a role player character. That's the theme. In a sense, it's just a puzzle where you're trying to fit the dice into a grid, kind of like Sagrada is, the same style. But you're creating this role player character. And so people who played RPGs, D&D or Pathfinder or other RPGs really enjoy the story part of it, because they create a character when they're putting it together. They putting together a elf magician. Are they doing a fighter? And so there's a story that builds up when you're creating the character through the game. And people love to tell that story, and it's fun to hear that story from them when they'll come up and say, "Hey, listen to this. The last time I played," and then they'll go into the player that they created. So it's really exciting to hear that.
That's neat, because if that's a game that lays the foundation for people to be able to tell stories and come up with their, I mean, even. I could see where people that have been doing RPGs for a while, that they're used to role playing, and they're used to getting into character up to the point where where they're doing accents or whatever.
Yeah.
And then have a game like Role Player that they could just the foundation is there, and they could just take that and just run with it, and that's where the unique memories and experiences with playing something like that come from. So
absolutely. And the other thing too is, although that is the theme on the game, even if you're not into the fantasy trope or role-playing games, you don't need to be to enjoy Role Player, because at its heart, really, it is that sort of drafting puzzle game where you're trying to fit different colored dice into the attribute grid with your character to fit certain parameters, colors in certain places, numbers in certain places, adding up rows into different numbers. So there's that as well. So even if a person just really isn't into RPGs, it's still a really great game to play. So when I teach it at stores or at conventions, it's fun when, somebody may just look at it and say, "Oh yeah, that I don't know if I'm really into it." I said, just sit down and try it. And within 5 minutes, and they start puzzling it out, you can see they're in the mechanics of the game, and so that's fun too. And maybe even through that, they might even start to get into, "Oh yeah, okay, I see where this is going," and then kind of have fun with the character as well. So it's always great when you can kind of see the lights turn on in somebody's eyes, and they're really like, "Oh, this game is fun," and that's what I love doing.
That's neat. The bigger of the thing where they're, because that's where a lot of the time the companies are announcing their new games coming out for the rest of the year, or even if not demoing, at least showcasing their new games coming out.
Yes, everybody's selling something, and they don't have a lot of the hot stuff. So it's always a bit of a feeding frenzy on that first couple of days, especially that first hour when the dealer hall opens. It's like a mad dash to pick up the hotness when they know there's limited numbers of those games for sale. And, my advice to people is, yeah, there's a lot of really great games, but you know what? Unless it's something that you really need to have, resist the urge to try to get everything. Just pick a couple of games that you really want. And you know what? You're going to have those games. You're going to enjoy those games, play them as much as you can. And everything else is going to be retail before long anyway.
Yeah.
And nothing is, the publishers aren't selling these games, at discounts at Gen Con. Sometimes even because it's brand new, the price might even be higher. So, if you wait and then pick it up at your local store or at online retailers, you don't have to stress about it. And then just enjoy the games that you pick up, and don't fall victim to the FOMO, the fear of missing out, because none of these games are going to be disappear within 2 months. They're still going to be out there, and if you're not driving to Gen Con, you don't want to be hauling a bunch of suitcases home full of games and leaving your clothes in the garbage. So.
Yeah.
I've seen people do that too.
Oh,
so.
God. Especially now is like, it's been a while since I've been on an airplane, but don't they charge so much of a fee for, extra baggage and weight and stuff, the baggage. So yeah. Unless you're, willing to pay for this, to ship it home,
yes,
and stuff like that. So yeah, you're gonna be paying extra just to get those things home from the con.
Yeah, and so this year, what was really nice is that a lot of publishers, Thunderworks Games included, did a pre-order system, and so Board Game Geek website had a pre-order system. I think. Chaz Marler of Paradise was one of the people that helped put that together for BGG. You could go on to, I think now it's closed, obviously, because we're just a couple weeks out. But up until a few weeks ago, you could go on to BGG.com, go through the list of publishers and games that were going to be released at Gen Con and pre-order a lot of them. So that way you could more or less reserve a copy. You didn't have to rush right in the first hour to try to grab everything, and you could just go up later. They're going to keep those aside. So we have, as I mentioned, cartographers and lockup are going to be new for us at Gen Con. And we can't bring thousands of pallets full of these games. So obviously there's a limited number available because of the space. But I feel like we've got quite a few, so I'm sure we'll sell out. But we definitely know that people who pre-ordered cartographers, at least they'll get that. And Lockup was a Kickstarter, so those people got their Kickstarter copies, but now it will be available for sale. And we should, we'll probably sell out Saturday, I expect, but they'll still be there. People won't have to rush right up. We're more than happy to sell them the games.
So when you're manning the booth and stuff, do you guys do you get to have a chance to go out and like at Origins? Do you have a chance to go out and sample playing some other games as well?
Well, sometimes. It's quite busy. We're trying to be as present as we can in the booth and to be available for as many demos as people are interested in. So not as much as you might think. It's a sacrifice that we make working for a publisher, being a part of a booth. But it's something obviously that we do because we love doing it. And we still, Keith and I play games with our groups separately, and we get together and play games together quite a bit. So there's always time to do that. And yeah, we might not have got a chance to, try out one of the new hot games, but we'll get a chance to do that. There's a couple that I'll want to take a look at, and Keith doesn't make me stay in the booth every minute, so I'll get some time to wander around and check some stuff out. But for me, what I enjoy about conventions is, first of all, seeing all the people that I know. I mean, because these are people that are all over the country, some all around the world that I'll only see at conventions. And so it's a great chance to see them again. It's like summer camp, you see all your friends that you see once or twice a year. And of course, meeting new people. In case it's not already obvious, I'm an extremely extroverted person. I love meeting people. I'm not afraid to meet people. It's just something that I really get energized about. So that's always great. I like being in the booth and being able to talk about our games and, to do the demonstrations for ticketed events like we'll do at Gen Con. I'm going to be running a lot of games of Role Player, and we have just completed our Kickstarter yesterday for the new Fiends and Familiars, and that just finished, and we had a the most successful Kickstarter campaign that Keith has had so far. So we're really happy about that. So we'll be demoing that game. Although the Kickstarter's over, we still want people to get excited about it when it hits shelves in 2020. So we're going to keep the hype going on the Role Player expansions.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, so that'll be good. So I think what I'm looking forward to most at Gen Con. So first of all, Gen Con, because it's so much bigger, and as you can imagine, there are a lot of publishers and companies that come to Gen Con. The cost of a booth is probably the most expensive of all of the conventions in the U.S. And so we have to use resources wisely. So we don't have quite as big a booth as we do at Origin. So we're going to be a little tight in there, but we're going to do the best that we can with the space and make sure we've got the games for people to purchase and to check out. And then we're going to run some ticketed events throughout the convention for people to come and play them. And then I have my mornings free. And that's usually when I meet with media people, board game media people, to do demonstrations for them or talk about the Thunderworks games and do interviews and such like that. So I'll be doing that quite a bit as well. And then when I'm not in the dealer hall, if I'm not sleeping, then usually what I'm doing is
Who sleeps at these things?
I know I do because it takes a lot of energy to stay up on my game. So I try to get at least 6 hours sleep. That's the least I can do. I owe that to the people that are going to have do the demos. So I don't want to be half asleep, doing it. But when I'm not in the dealer hall, then in the evenings, that's a chance to meet up with friends. And often there's different people that are having meetups that I'll go to. The Secret Cabal has a big meetup every year at Gen Con. The Rolling Dice and Taking Names have the Strike tournament that they do every year. That's usually a fun event that I'll be going to, and just other things, just seeing friends and hanging out. The other thing that I like to do at conventions, I am a morning person, and so I do like to get up early, and I usually will put out on social media for people that are following me if they want to come hang out for breakfast. Usually we'll pick a place nearby the convention hall because I love to eat breakfast, drink coffee, and maybe a Bloody Mary from time to time. So people want to come hang out and just chat before the day starts. That's always good too. So.
Oh yeah, I started. I've never been really a morning person, but there's one thing that got me to get up early in the morning, and that is they opened up a Dunkin' Donuts across the street from my apartment. So so
Well,
that's been
you know what they say, America runs on. So.
yes. So of course I'd go over there and then come back home and then go right back to bed. So.
That's just what you need is like half a box of donuts and then go back to bed.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. So, so when you're not doing teaching games and stuff like that, what games have you and your game group got to the table recently?
Yeah. So we've been playing a lot of the Fantasy Flight Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle Earth.
Ah,
So that's one of the games that I've been playing with Keith and some of the other people that are here in Madison. And boy, that game is amazing. First of all, I love cooperative games. Partly, I think, because it requires sort of the skills of everybody to be successful. And I know that criticism sometimes people have of cooperative games is that there sometimes can be the alpha player that sort of takes charge and does
right.
everything for everybody. And of course, that can happen. I totally understand that. But if you have the right group of people that know each other well enough and can say to each other, hey, you know, we all contribute here, they really go very, very well. So I've always had really great groups to play these with. And we're just having a great time with Lord of the Rings. It's exciting. It's a story. I mean, each of the scenarios are difficult, like any cooperative game. For anybody who's played the other Fantasy Flight cooperative game, Mansions of Madness,
Yeah.
it's as hard as that. But if you're clever and you work together and kind of figure out what your strengths are for each of your characters, you can do pretty well. So we're probably winning about 50% to 75% of the episodes. So we're doing pretty well. But we're a couple of them we just are getting through with the skin of our teeth. But that's what's exciting, right? I mean, it's like a cliffhanger. You're like right to the last second. We just played last night, and we literally squeaked out a win on what was probably the last turn that we had.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
we're just like
We've had
nail
games like
biting.
that. Yeah. So it's like the down to the last round or the last player of the last round, and you know it's a roll of one die or a draw of one card, and it all hinges on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. The other one that I've just been loving is Detective from Portal Games.
Uh-huh.
So there's like two big detective games out there right now. There's Detective, a modern crime board game from Portal Games, and then Detective, A City of Angels from Van Ryder Games. I'm playing both of them now, and I love them both for different reasons. But Ignacy with Portal, the Portal version of Detective is, I mean, it's just all of those things that I love about police procedural dramas. I'm a huge police procedural drama fan. I mean, watching all the CSIs and I just love those detective shows. They're just great. So this is you're living out a detective show, and it's just so amazing because the Portal team put together a game that utilizes an app, but also the ability to use real information on the internet. It's just so cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it is really fun.
So yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like okay, it's not all fictional. It has the tie-in to
Yeah.
actual real world events or historical events or something like that. So yeah, I mean you could hell, for a game like Detective, you could be getting yourself an education of other things that you wouldn't
Yes.
know any other way. Or
Yeah. Yeah. That's the part about it that I love the most. It's just you really feel like you're a detective, right? So I'm living out my detective fantasy by playing the game. Detective: A City of Angels from Van Ryder Games, also a fabulous game. That one has a sort of a film noir kind of theme to it, and that's a one against many. There is in the game, one player plays what they call the chisel, and they have the information about who committed the crime and the answers to like all the what weapon was used. It's kind of like a fancy version of Clue, I guess.
okay.
And the other players playing the detectives, the gumshoes, are trying to get the information, and in a clue kind of mechanism, if you think you know the answers, you then are able to give the chisel your who you deduced is the killer and the circumstances surrounding it. And if you're right, then you win. And if you're wrong, then you can't guess again until the very last round of the game, in which everyone gets a chance to guess. And if they still don't get it correct, then the chisel wins. And the chisel can use a strategy of kind of misinformation and kind of getting people off onto the wrong path. So that's sort of their strategy. And then the detectives are trying to move around, trying to get information, interrogating people. And they're able to use influence tokens to try to get more information. So when I'm playing it, I'm imagining when I'm using influence, I'm grabbing the suspect by the collar and kind of squeezing it, kind of getting right up in their face saying, you better tell me the truth, So it's hard not to play that game and sort of use a Edward G. Robinson kind of voice for it. So it's like your gangster movie. So Van Ryder put a beautiful game. The artwork is amazing. It's just another fun game. So another. Obviously, I'm neck deep in detective theme.
Yeah. So I've played the Detective and haven't played the Van Ryder one, but the other detective game I have is the Chronicles of Crime, and I could appreciate the whole noir aspect of it too, because that's one of the expansions for it. So in the core game, you're playing a police detective, so you have to do everything by the book. And the noir expansion, it adds 4 new actions as that you could go fudge to law a little bit. You could, if there's a location that's locked, you could break and enter. You could threaten somebody, a witness, if they're not being forthright with you. And you could try to strong arm them, and they may break and give you more information, or it may go bad for you. So the first one I played, I strong armed one of the witnesses, and I wound up getting, from that point on for the rest of the game, I got the mafia on me. So So all the locations I went to, I had only so many turns to do what I needed to do before the assassin showed up. And then what's that? Another thing is if you had the amount of enough cash, you could pay a snitch on the street for information, or you could tail somebody. So there are different things that you could do in that. And then the most recent expansion, Welcome to Redview, it's sort of like, I don't want to say Stranger. It's sort of like Goonies and Stranger Things, but without all the supernatural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess more like a Scooby-Doo type thing, where you play a bunch of teenagers trying to solve a mystery in the neighborhood, and it's neat because there's a timing aspect of it per day, and you have to get back to your home base, which is your house, by I think it's like 7 or 8 o'clock at night for curfew. So you basically and unlike the core box, you don't have any experts to call in and get information from, but you basically introduces some dice rolling as well in that one, so you could if somebody's more influential in a talking a sweet talker, or someone who's fast on their feet, that type of thing, they could roll for to either succeed or fail in a particular talking with somebody or doing something.
That one I have heard really good things about, and I definitely that's on my wish list for games to pick up, and because I've heard it's also a really good detective game that is different than the other two. So
yeah,
I got space on my shelf, so it's definitely going to go there.
So yeah, and another thing I just recently got was Tiny Epic Mix, and been playing that, and that's pretty. It's interesting that each game that Gamelin Games comes out with, the whole Tiny Epic series, each one has its own a focus or their own theme, or there's a certain mechanic that it focuses on, and this one revolves around programming. So basically, similar to, I guess, Robo Rally or even Mix versus Minions type thing, where you have a grid laid out, and it's based on how many players are in. The rule book gives you like 3 or 4 different layouts that you could use depending on the number of players, and you're basically you got your little meeples with the weapons. And then you're basically going around the board, and you could lay a mine, you could lay a turret, you could collect, because each card has either a money or credits, or like energy. I forget, the name escapes me. What is, but it's sort of like basically energy and credits. Mm-hmm. And you could do one of those things, or you could power up. And basically, you start out just with a little meeple, and then when you power up, you could get into sort of like a mech, but there's a big mega mech in the middle of the board. So everybody's vying to try to get to that and be the first one to get into that suit. But you have to be already in your mech to begin with and at full health, and to be able to even be able to get into that center space and be able to get into the mega mech. And at that point, it's like you could, if the other players are not already in their mechs by that point, when someone gets into the mega mech, it's basically a squash match. So
no one left standing.
No. So it helps when you. I think from what I've been playing, it's of course has a solo variant which plays just fine. But for multiplayer, I think the sweet spot is at least 3 or 4 players. Because if you could get, because once somebody gets in that mega mech, they have more health. But the cool thing is they can't heal. So any damage that they take, that's it, and you just got to keep pummeling them until their health is down to 0. They get ejected out, and then whoever is the one whatever person deals that final blow, they get to get into the mech and then do their carnage. So it goes through a series of 6 rounds. So yeah, but the points can really rack up on that game fairly quick as the games goes on.
Well, I think Scott Alms has done a great job with those Tiny Epic games. The first time I played Tiny Epic Galaxy, I think that was the first one that I played. I was like, yeah, this is a great game. And I have not had a chance to try the new one, but I'm definitely that's also on my list. So.
And it's wild because the box sizes are all the same, but
Yeah.
once you get all the components, there's quite a bit of components in these games.
Right.
So once you get it out on a table, it's like, yeah, it takes up a good part of the table, and then it's just incredible how you get all that stuff back into that little tiny box. So.
Yep, there's a lot of game in that little box, which is not. I mean, there's a lot of games that have some mighty big boxes, and that's fine. There's a lot of games, obviously Fantasy Flight games come with a lot of minis and they take up a lot of space, but it's nice to have smaller box games that are just easy to take with you. That's the nice thing about our new game Cartographers. It's a small game. The box is small. It can play in a very small space, but it can play up to as many people as you have the sheet and a pencil for. So we make a joke. You could play it on the tray table on an airplane, and if you could project the card that is drawn onto a screen, everybody in the airplane could play. So it's a fun game that way. But it's nice when you got a small box. There's games that I keep in a bag in my car that pretty much go with me everywhere. And Cartographers is one. Another one that I always take with me is Gorus Maximus from Inside Up Games. That one came out, I think, just about a year ago. A great little kind of trick-taking game, kind of similar to euchre in a lot of ways. If you play euchre or any kind of trick-taking game like that, you'll catch on real quickly. But it has this sort of really kind of gory, battle in the arena artwork on it from Kwanchai Moria, and it's just a fun game. So I keep that one. I keep Gold Fever from Stronghold Games in my bag, and these are games that I will often take to parties, or I'll even pull them out at the bar, at happy hour with friends. And you'd be surprised how many people, just random people at the bar, I'll pull in and they'll see the game. What are you playing? I'm like, okay, come on over. I'll teach you how to play. So, I mean, that's what games should be about, right? I mean, games should be something that draw people together to have a good time. I mean, that's what board games are for. I think whereas, and I don't have anything against computer games or console gaming. I no problems with it. I know a lot of people that love those. Keith came from a background of design in video games. So, I have nothing against that. But what I think sometimes that those things do is they draw you to sort of to be a part, to sort of, be in your basement with your headphones on in front of the screen. Yeah, sure, you can play online and talk to people, but it's not a social thing in the same way that board games are. When you want to play a board game, you are getting together with friends, both old and new, around a table, and you're going to invest an hour or two of time to play something and have a good time. And when you're done, hopefully everybody is having a great time and likes each other better and are better friends for that experience. I love that. If that's why I have so much passion for our hobby, because anybody who knows me knows that sort of the thing that I want to do more than anything is to bring people together. And so when I say that anyone is welcome around my table, I mean it. I want everyone to be a part of that fun. And so when I'm out and about and I have games with me, I want to share that fun with them, that experience. And when they leave, hopefully they feel like they had an experience that was different than anything that they've had before. And that's great. When I have a bunch of people playing, something like cartographers at the bar, I can teach them in about 3 minutes, and you've got strangers just sitting around playing a game. It's so much fun. I'll step back and just go, okay, this is a cool moment, right? So
yeah, because I know when I attend some of the local gaming cons here in Charlotte. I always sign up to host or teach, whatever game, and if there's not enough players to play that game, or there's a slot open, I'll sit in and play the game with people, but half the time when I got a full sign up sheet, just showing people the game and then just sitting back. Just being there to answer questions or whatever, but just watching people play the game and having fun. Mm-hmm. I have fun just by them having fun, that type of thing. So right. You could go to a movie, you could go to a sports event and stuff like that, and spend time together and have fun. But when you're done and leave there, it's like, okay, well, you're just okay, if you're going to talk about something, all you could do is talk about the movie or talk about the game or the sports team or something. But with stuff like board games, there's being social and the interaction of people. So, you have this common focus and to get together to play a board game. But it's like, okay, remember, like, we're half the stories I got is something that happened during the RPG is like, okay, so remember when such and such a character did this, and mm-hmm. I have a group of RPG players that I play with every other week, at least 4 or 5 years, and we still reference. Even in the characters we're playing in this campaign, we'll still reference something that a character did in another campaign years ago, and laugh about that, and just the fun memories that that stuff brings. So it's nothing. I can't think of anything else that besides board games that has that face-to-face interaction and. Spending time with people, because like I said, I mean, you could go to a sports, I could go to a WWE meet or something like that and pay-per-view, and we could talk about the matches and stuff like that, but that's all we're talking about. We're not talking about each other and the enjoyment we had meeting and having, with being with each other. We're just talking about the movie or the match or whatever.
Yeah, and if I can just mention something, Thomas, because it made me think of this when you were talking about that. In your recent monologue, you were talking about social anxiety and people who it may be harder for them to sort of be able to approach people, to join them to play. And so it's really been my goal to be sure, because I am somebody who is extroverted and I'm not shy, and I don't mind going up to people that I don't know. I always try to make it a goal to look around to make sure if there is somebody that I see that may be standing on the sideline, wanting to play, but maybe just not knowing how to get involved. I think it's our responsibility as people in the hobby to try to make sure that we're inviting people over and we're making sure that people are involved. because that's really what we want to do. And so not everybody's going to be have the personality to just sort of come up to a table of strangers and say, hey, I see you're playing, role player. Can I hop in and play with you? So, I always do. If I got a free space at the table, I'm looking around. Is there anybody around that maybe looks like they want to play, and go grab them? And you could just see on a person's face the relief when they say, like, hey, I did want to play that, and I would have gone up, but I was a little bit nervous, so I didn't. But when you can welcome them in, you can just see how much they appreciate it. And by the time it's done, they're just as excited and getting along with people as lifelong friends. So that's something that I think we need to do a better job at in our hobby, is to make sure that we're welcoming, that we're inclusive, that we're making sure that there is a space at our table for everybody, that nobody is on the outside, because we're all sort of outsiders, right? I mean, okay, so granted, the industry is starting to get some notice in the world, because it's making some money, right? So anytime a industry starts to become profitable, people sort of take notice of it. But in reality, we're still the outsiders, and so we got to stick together. We got to make sure we're looking out for each other. Nobody should be on the outside of the outsiders club. We should all be on the inside of that. Everybody can play. And that's what's fun about our hobby. And what I like the most about it is that it's a chance for people to come together, work together, and have some fun, right? And that's where that's if we can do that, we're making the world a better place, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking as an introvert, I could say that when people do that just speaks volumes to me, and I obviously I can't speak for everyone as far as their upbringing and stuff. But I could only, for me, myself, and my life, and I guess my history, my introvertism, if that's even a word, but. One of the reasons why I'm an introvert is just a lack of trust. So when especially if a stranger invites me over and say, hey, hey, you want to play this game? We have an open spot here. Yes, come. So yeah, I'll go over and play with them, because I've been invited, and like I said on my segment on Board Game Breakfast, like I'm not one to go up on, and just cold call. That's why I was never good at sales. I can't cold call people on the phone and try to sell them something. But if I'm invited to come and join a group, yeah, I'll do that. And just I could tell you by just sitting there and playing a game, introducing myself to people and getting to know, just even in that first game, getting to know a little bit about everybody there. I could tell you the walls start to break down a little bit.
Yeah.
I may not invite you over to my place after the first game, but if I see you again, or it's like, okay, well, let's meet again at this, especially if it's at a con, or even most frequently at a board game store. That continued welcoming of people is like, okay, well, all right. So these group of people, evidently, they accept me, they welcome me into their group. That first time wasn't a fluke. So and each time play a game with with people, that trust issue, at least for me, gets a little bit softer. It gets a little bit easier for me to. It's like, okay, well, yeah, yeah. It's like I'm not keeping everybody at arm's length away from me. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll all right, we'll get off it, yeah, and sooner or later I'll be inviting you over to the Mega Meeple studio, and you'll have a gaming table and God knows how many hundreds of games to pick from.
Yeah. Yes, that's what our hobby should be doing. We should be bringing people together, not at arm's length, but we should be getting close together around that cardboard board on the table and a bunch of wooden meeples. And I mean, it's just stuff on the table. But when the magic of people are transforming those bits and that cardboard and those paper cards into something that, like I said, for an hour, 2 hours, transforms us, takes us into a different world. That's where the real excitement comes. That the world has enough problems, and I'm not discounting them. We have to work together to make our world a better place. But sometimes when we're tired from making the world a better place, it's nice to be able to just enjoy each other's company. So we have to do a better job of that, I think. But I think in our industry, we're being more conscious of it. And I like that. The people that are having that conversation more publicly, how can we be better at that? I admire those people a lot, and it's the same thing that I want to do to build that community. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I love being a part of Thunderworks games and being able to meet people through it and share the passion of our games with people. It brings me a lot of joy to do that, and anything that brings us joy these days is worth doing. So when we find something like that, we want to hold on to it. So
yeah, and I could say just to you, Tim. It's anybody on Twitter. I mean, if you haven't followed or heard of Tim here, then. I just want to applaud you. Is like, all right, if it doesn't matter who they are. I mean, if it's another podcast, if it's another game, another designer, or just another content creator in the industry or the community, you are right there to like, to retweet, to give some attention to those people, because I mean, I like to say I'm not the biggest fish in the ocean. I'm more like a guppy in the ocean of board games. I mean, my numbers just cannot compete to somebody like the Tom Vasel or Man versus Meeple or any the big powerhouses that are out there. But we're like, when I first came out with this idea of this podcast, I was like, well, why is there another gaming podcast? I was like, well, I equated it to, well, you can never have too many dice.
Yes.
So because everybody has a voice, everybody has a unique voice, a unique experience, a unique take on the same hobby. And for those of us like me that I'm not able to get out very often because of some mobility issues and stuff. So a lot of my interaction with people is on social media. Mm-hmm. But your diligence and just being able to in a sense share the wealth, so to speak, of your enthusiasm and just spread that out to everybody. For anybody who wants to know how to reach you or follow you, that haven't yet followed you on Twitter, where could they go? And do you have other things that you like? Do you have like Facebook or website or something like that they could follow you other than Twitter?
Well, thanks for saying those kinds words, by the way. But before I share that, I just want to say, before I forget, in my thinking, there is no fish that's too small. We all have a place to do something to help other people. And I think we're all in this together. And my experience, although I have heard that this isn't universal, but I've always experienced that everyone that I've met has been very supportive of what I'm doing. And so I feel like we need to help lift each other up. It's like we're standing on each other's shoulders. So what was the game that came out? I think it was about a year ago. It's about I think it's in Spain or Italy where they do that thing where they try to build the tallest human tower. But I think it's like we're standing on each other's shoulders, and there's a place for all of us there. So yeah, some of the bigger ones are kind of at the base, and the smaller ones are maybe in the middle. But so what I think we can all do to help each other is to support each other and to promote what each other are doing. So again, yeah, I'm most active on Twitter. My Twitter handle is my first name, Tim, Tim _ Virnig, Virnig. So Tim _ Virnig. That's where I'm most active. I have some presence on Facebook, but not as much. And I'm sort of learning Instagram and trying to do more with pictures, but probably mostly on Twitter. And yeah, like you said, I'm trying to help a lot of those voices that people might not hear, and helping them, because I think we can help each other to share our voice, because we all have something to share. You have something unique to share that Man vs. Meeple can't share. Your experiences, the games that you play are different than what Tom Vassel's are. So I'm so excited about some of these new voices that are coming out in media. Some great new podcasts. Meeple University with Terrence and Stella from Australia. Yeah. Fabulous stuff. I just met both of them at Origins. They're just marvelous people. I was just so excited to meet them. Paul Grogan, and all these people that are doing their channels and contributing to various things, some of which are getting attention, and others that are not yet. But I think that those voices are all important to hear. So that's what I like to do. I make it my mission to promote what people are doing. So if someone has a project or a podcast or a YouTube channel or a blog that they're doing, I'll share that. And, hey, I'm probably a smaller fish than you are, but I feel like if we do that for each other, we lift everybody up. So that's kind of what my goal is to do that. The industry is big enough, and I don't ever want us to get to a place where it's every person for themselves. I want it to be a place where we're all in this together, because there's a big enough pie, we can all get a slice.
Oh yeah. To piggyback on that, that's some of the. I know there's. I'm sure there's like a cool factor. There's like, okay, well, it's cool to be in like the in crowd, or be one of the few, and then as I mean, this hobby is only going to get bigger. And as new people are coming in, we really need to welcome them with open arms, rather than, Pusher was like, "Oh no, this is our corner of the neighborhood. You go over there." And because it was like, well, if it gets too big, it stops being cool. No, it's just more people that we have the opportunity to get to know.
Yeah.
And who the hell knows? I mean, that's one of those people coming in, maybe a future game designer or something like that,
Yep.
where they could we've been part of that introductory or that small kernel of that they are experiencing, and that may lead to bigger things in our hobby. So
yeah, we have to be willing to help and welcome anybody. That's the only people I don't have time for are people that are negative and who are not inclusive. Those people, they can go their own way, but anyone of goodwill who is trying to make our hobby a better place, as far as I'm concerned, is worth helping to make their voice heard. So that's what I do. So I mean, I do the same for our games, for Thunderworks games. I'm promoting those by teaching them at stores and talking to media and people like you on podcasts, and teaching the games at conventions. I'm promoting that. I'm promoting other people, what they're doing, and I care about that as well. So it's just what I like to do. I want to be a booster, a cheerleader for all of this stuff. So always great to be a part of this hobby and to do what I can to make it a better place.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much for Tim for coming on and helping be my tag team partner here today. So I didn't have. I could. I got up on only doing half the work, so it really helps.
Well, I feel like we should get a big gold belt that we can hold up in the ring. And Thomas, I wanted to say it's been a real pleasure to share the ring with you, and I've enjoyed what you've done with Mega Meeple and your contribution to the Dice Tower Media stuff, and I look forward to hearing more of your stuff. And like I said, you've got a story to tell. You have a message. Keep going with that, and together we can make. We may not be able to fix the world's problems, but we can certainly make our hobby be an example of a place where people are welcomed and have fun, and we can gather around the table. That's my dream. I want to get everybody, all of my friends and followers. I want to get them all around the table and play a game, because that's what I dream about. It's like all of these people, even though I may not have met them yet, I care about each one of them. So
excellent. Thank you so much. Well, Tim, if you don't mind, before I let you go, let's see. It's been a while since I've done this, so I got to blow the dust off my list here. But and I still haven't come up with a better title. It's the Mega Meeple Rapid Fire Round.
Okay.
So this is what I did with a lot of my guests when I interview guests on the show. But like I said, it's been a while since I've done that. So I thought, well, this is a good time to bring that list out. And so I'll say something like cats or dogs, and you just tell me which one you like better.
All right.
Thing. Okay.
Okay. Let me just. I'm going to lay down here on the couch.
Okay.
Feel
make
like
yourself comfortable.
We're going to do like a stream of consciousness thing. Okay. So, all right, I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right. Zombies or vampires?
Zombies.
All right. Checkers or chess?
Chess.
Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
All right.
I'm enjoying a delicious watermelon after our interview. So
Oh, okay. There we go. And in this hot weather, that's a good
exactly.
thing. Yep. All right. Next, cowboys or aliens?
Aliens.
All right. And last, Android or Apple?
Android.
Okay. Oh no. Okay. No.
I think they're both sort of equally evil. So I don't know if either one's better, but I guess I could have thrown it off and said open source, but I'd be
There you go.
wrong.
Alrighty. Well, Tim, thank you so much. And we'll have links to Tim's Twitter and Thunderworks games in the show notes of this episode. Tim, thanks so much again for coming on and helping me out here. Appreciate it very much. And I'll be seeing you on the Twitterverse.
All right, anytime, Thomas. Mega Meeple.
Alrighty then. Well, thank you so much for smashing that download button. Appreciate it very much. If you haven't already, go over to iTunes, subscribe, put out some of that 5-star loving. Leave me a happy review. It really helps out. Yeah, just if you want to find out more information, just go to the website. Again, it's www.themegameeple.com. All the podcast episodes stream there. If you're not an iTunes type of person, you could listen. You could download the episodes right there from the website directly, and stream it there. And then on the social media page, there's a whole bunch of stuff for Facebook's, Twitter, Instagram to follow me and interact with me. And if you want to help out with just hosting costs and support both the podcast and the YouTube channel, there's a link there for the what is it? What the hell is it called? Patreon. Yeah, that's what it's called. But yeah, so yeah, you know what to do. As cheap as like $1 a month really helps out. And yeah, there's a variety of different level tiers and rewards that you could get, just depending on how much you want to support the show, because that's how that shit works. And anyway, so thank you so much for listening, and hope you will join me again next time. Until then, this is the Mega Meeple saying I will see you at the gaming table.
We can all do what we can do. Sorry, hold on one second.